So today we're going to be taking a look at this ServMon machine on Hack the Box. I'll apologise for this video being a little bit late as well. I know the machine was retired a couple of days ago. I did actually complete the machine a couple of months ago when it first came out, but I just didn't get around to recording a video until now. And that's one thing to point out, is that this machine is only 2 months old and it's being retired already. I'm assuming that's because it got a pretty bad reception. If we go and look at the scores of like recent Windows machines, you see we're getting 4s, 4.6, some of them have 5 up here, and then this one got a rating of 2.1. So yeah, people obviously weren't happy with this machine. I did see a lot of comments in the forum threads with people complaining about the reliability and stability of the machine. Personally, I didn't have any problems the first time I went through it. I guess we'll see this time if we have any issues. But yeah, I do feel bad for whoever made the machine. Who was it? It was this guy. I do feel bad for them because they've obviously put time and effort into making a machine, which is more than a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people don't submit or create any machines. And then everyone's just kind of trashing it. And they did actually put a post on the forum saying they've had to sit there and watch everyone trash their machine for the last few days, which sucks. And that's probably going to put them off making any more machines, which is a real shame. But yeah, you'll see as we get into it, you'll see like one of the problems with the machine is basically that one of the kind of most common exploits that people find will tell people to restart the machine to complete the exploit. And a lot of people just followed that blindly, I guess, and just restarted the machine. So that caused a lot of problems because now everyone else who's attacking it is having it rebooted all the time. You don't need to do that, but that's just an unfortunate thing that everyone found. So yeah, let's start this off anyway with a Nmap scan. I think it was 184. We'll do T4 to make it slightly faster. We'll do the first 6,000 ports as usual. We'll do -V so that we actually see what's going on while it's running. And we'll skip ahead to when this is finished. So we've got the list of open ports now. We've got 21 FTP, so that's obviously going to be a good place to start. See if anonymous access is enabled, see if we can find anything on there. 22 for SSH, pretty unlikely we're going to be able to get in there because we don't have any credentials yet. 80, so there's a website running on this machine, so let's go and take a look at that to start with. It's always a common one to start with, but we need a username and password. I did try just, the usual admin and stuff like that, but none of them were valid. 445 for SMB. Again, we could check that for anonymous access, but I'll tell you now, if that's not enabled, we would need some credentials to get in there. We've got this port, 5040, which is unknown, so it's not anything common. And then we've got 5666, which is NRPE, which I don't recognize, so we'll have to Google that and see what that is. So let's take a quick look at what is NRPE. Nagios Remote Plugin Executor. So Nagios I've actually heard of before. It's like a network monitoring system or server monitoring system. I've not used it, but I have heard of it, so that rang a bell straight away. But this obviously describes it pretty well anyway in here. It says that it's a Nagios agent that allows remote system monitoring using scripts, blah, blah, blah. So that immediately sounds like it could be useful for us. But at the moment there isn't anything we can do with that because we don't have any kind of access to it. So that kind of leaves us with just the website at the moment. So let's Google and see what this NVMS thing is. NVMS 1000 exploit, that seems like a good thing to Google. First thing we find is this, which is a directory traversal technique. This is just doing the usual ... to go up a directory over and over again so that you get back to the root. So basically, here's an example of it. You would put in the web server and then the file that you want it to read, and then this output name, I assume, is where it's actually going to save the output to. We don't really need to bother with all that. I'm not going to bother running the Python script. We're just going to look at what it's doing. So again, here, path traversal just by using ... and then we'll just try and use that to read a file. Because this win.ini file here, it's not that there's anything useful in there. It's just a common file that people would use to kind of, as a proof of concept, to prove that you can read from files that you're not supposed to be able to read from. Because obviously this website isn't supposed to allow you to read anything other than the website. But what they've discovered here is that if you use the ... technique to keep going up a level, you can get directory traversal and then read other files. So we use win.ini because that's a common file that exists on every Windows machine. So of course you could just copy and paste this script, run it and see if that works. We're going to do it a slightly more manual way. We'll use curl, you could do it in Burp Suite or anything. We'll use curl-g for get, and then we'll put in the website that we're going to. So in our case, that's 10.184. Now, the first time I tried to do this, I just took take all these. You don't need all of them. We'll get into that in a second, exactly how that works if you're not familiar with this. But and then we'll do Windows/win.ini. So I tried to do that to start with, but we don't get any response. So it turns out with curl, you need to do -- path as is. and now we actually get the contents of that file. So just to explain how this works, I think most people are going to be really familiar with this, but again, I want to make sure I explain things in these videos, not just go type this, type that, done. So what's happening here? Well, let's start with what happens when we don't use the path as is option. So what's going to happen here is it's going to do the same thing as what a web browser would do. Like you'll see if we put this into the web browser, it won't work. We'll just get nothing. There we go, page can't be found. Because you can see there, it's actually got rid of all the ... slashes that we did. Because the web browser is trying to be helpful, it's basically saying that if you have a little path in here and then you have ... slash and then some other path, so actually all that means is just go up a level and basically get rid of this Windows directory. So the web browser will basically take this Windows directory out for you, and then the actual request that gets sent would just be for that second part of the path. But if we do the path as is with curl, it won't take these out because it knows that you're just going back up a level. So what's happening here is wherever the web server or the website is actually running from, let's say it's in like c/inetpub/www root, kind of standard IS location, that's the location that this starts in when we access it. So if we do ... that would go back up to www root, and then another ... would go back up to inetpub, and then another ... would be the root of C. Now the reason that we do loads of them is because we don't know exactly how deep in the folder structure this website is running from. So we just do loads of them because there's no penalty for doing too many. So if at this point here we're actually back at like the root of the C drive, if we do a load more, all that happens is we just stay at the root of the C drive. And then eventually we get to this part where now it'll be c/windows/window.ini. So hopefully that makes sense. That's how path traversals with just ... work. And again, I should have explained this first, but if you're not familiar with why it's like ... that's just kind of the standard. If you do cd ... that goes up a level. So I'm assuming everyone knows that. But yeah, it's just kind of a universal thing that ... means up a level in the directory structure. So that's what's going on here. So yeah, we could actually probably do a lot less than we've got there. Let's just take out a few of them. And you see it still works fine. So anyway, what does that actually get us? Well now, if we go back to this, we know we can read random files from the file system, but that doesn't help us at the moment because we don't have a particular file we want to read. Like there's no file that this website is going to be able to access that is actually useful to us at the moment. So we need to know a file that we're trying to read, something that's got some useful information in. We need to know the full path to it. So that brings us on to FTP. We already saw that that was open. Port 21 here, FTP is open. So I'm just going to use Windows Explorer. We'll just do FTP. You see I've already been to it before, FTP / and then the IP address. And you can see we get straight in with anonymous access, so we didn't have to log in at all. We get these two folders. Let's have a look in here. Now this is kind of stupid, you have to copy it first, it won't just open it directly from there. So we'll just copy that to my desktop, that'll download it from FTP onto my desktop. Open that up, and let's see, we've got a note saying, Nathan, I left passwords.txt file on your desktop. It's very convenient. Please remove it, blah, blah, blah. So now we've got some information here. We know there's a user called Nathan and Nadine. We already knew that from here. We've got two users, Nathan and Nadine. There's nothing useful in this Nathan thing. I think there's just some hints to some stuff later on, but let's just copy that and read it. Yeah, so there's nothing actually useful here. These are just kind of some hints to make sure you're looking at the right stuff, I guess, if you find this first. But yeah, what we know is there's a user called Nathan, a user called Nadine, and we know that passwords.txt exists on Nathan's desktop because that's what this note says. Or at least we can guess that that's what we're trying to do. So let's go back to curl, and now we'll do /users /Nathan /desktop /passwords. I don't know if it's going to be case sensitive. Passwords.txt. It's not case sensitive apparently. Hopefully you followed why we deduced that. That's pretty straightforward. And it's not particularly realistic, I guess, but it's realistic that you could find something that tips you off to a certain file existing in a certain location, and then use a directory traversal technique like this to access the file. This, a passwords.txt file being on someone's desktop and being specifically mentioned in a, with the file extension and everything, kind of unlikely, but I like the kind of overall idea that they were going for. So here we get a load of passwords. So let's just copy these into Notepad. And we know we've got username of Nathan and the username of Nadine. So where can we try some of these passwords? We could try them with SMB, but we can also try them with SSH because we saw that port was open. Open up command prompt, we'll do SSH. I can't remember the parameters for this because I don't use it very often. I guess we want to do -L for login name. We'll try Nadine because We don't know which one of these users that is the password for. And then the destination is going to be 10.10.184. You sure you want to continue? Yes, I don't care. Whatever that was asking me about. Password. So let's try each of these passwords. We've not got many, so it's not going to take long to just try them one by one. Of course, you could script this, and that's probably the better way to do it. Permission denied. No. Let's try another one. That one lets us in. So there we go. That didn't take long at all. Again, scripting it would be the better way to do it, the more realistic way, but if I see a list of only like 7 items, I'm not going to waste my time writing a script. It would have taken longer to write a script than it would to have just tried those things. Especially as we only have 2 users to try them with, so there's a grand total there of like 14 combinations. So yeah, not really worth scripting. But if you want to kind of practice those kind of things, I don't blame you. So we get into here. Now we can do normal Windows commands. Let's go into her desktop, and presumably we'll find a user flag. So we do. So we can do user.txt, and we get the contents of the user flag. So there we go. Now we're on to root. So let's have a look around the C drive to start with. We'll just see if we can find anything interesting. We've got the website, which is presumably that site that we were looking at before. Oh, there is no www root in there. Oh, it's just FTP. Okay, so that's not where that NVMS website was running from. But let's have a look. We've got rec data. What's this? Some stuff there that we could take a look at. I mean, I know from doing that before that wasn't of any interest, but obviously the first time I went through it, I did have a quick look at some of that stuff. Didn't get anywhere with it. In fact, you know what? Instead of constantly typing dir and cd and all that stuff, I've just remembered I wrote a program to avoid that, didn't I? So let's use my GUI reverse shell so that we can save ourselves some time. So we'll open this, we'll listen on 4444, and then we just need to copy that to the remote machine. So what is my IP address? It is 14.31. 14.31/shared. This is a SMB share that I've got on my machine. We'll copy that to C/temp, I guess. And then we'll also copy the DLL that it needs. Cool, so now we can just do that. C/temp, vb-rev, and then put my IP address in, which was 14.31, and then 4444, and then we should get a connection here. There we go. So now we can look around a lot easier using this program that I wrote. I did a whole separate video on this if you've not seen this before, but yeah, this is still a work in progress, so not everything works, but some stuff works. So we can do things like look at all the Ethernet adapters. We can see which programs are listening on TCP ports, so we've got the usual stuff there for FTP, SSH. We can see which processors are listening on those ports as well. But yeah, let's carry on looking around the file system. So where do we want to look? Is there anything useful in program data? Not that jumps out at me straight away. Let's see what's installed. So straight away here, something that jumps out is NSClient++. Never heard of that or seen that before. So let's have a look and see what we've got in here. Let's download some of these files and just see what they are. I've actually tried to run it. Let's just open it in a text editor. Okay, so these just look like normal kind of network checks for like whether RDP is enabled, stuff like that. Which would make sense that this would be part of that whole Nagios server monitoring agent thing that we found before. And indeed, if we Google just NSClient++, that is the best way to figure out what things are, and we can see it's an agent designed to work with Nagios. So this is obviously the thing that is listening on that port 59 or whatever it was, 5666, this NRPE agent. So let's carry on looking around in here and see if we can find anything interesting. We've got an ini file. They're usually interesting. They usually contain some settings. So what have we got here? We've got a password, very useful. So we will make a note of that password in our text file that we were keeping track of. I didn't actually make a note of that as the password for Nadine. Any other interesting information? We've got that it's only allowing connections from localhost. So that means we're probably going to have to do some port tunneling. Anything else useful in here? So nothing else super useful in there. We're going to have to do some Googling and figure out what some of these things are that we can do with this, see if there's any exploits. but we know that it'll only allow connections from localhost, and we know there's a password for it. One thing we don't know at the moment is how to actually connect to it. Like, is there any, like, what's that password for? How do we connect to it? Now, if we go back to the networking that we were looking at earlier, the TCP listeners, and I think this is how I figured this out the first time, was just running either this or nbtstat minus a or whatever it is, netstat minus an, I can't remember the command. But yeah, running one of those or using this program, I can't remember which I used. I noticed that there's this thing listening on 8443. And if we try and go to that in a web browser, go to HTTP, or it might be HTTPS because 443 sounds like HTTPS kind of thing, doesn't it? So let's do that. And we'll do 8443. And we get connection not private, no one cares, carry on. And we get a website here. So we need a password, which we've got from the NS client config, but we know it's gonna, the bad grammar, there should be an apostrophe and an RE there. That hurts me. But yeah, we know we're not allowed in because we saw that it only allows connections from localhost. So let's do some port forwarding. We'll start a new command prompt here, and I will copy over the port forwarding tool that I wrote. You can use, like SSH actually has built-in port forwarding, but I've never used it personally, so rather than looking up the syntax and the way to use that, I'm going to copy the port forwarding tool that I wrote over there. But yeah, there's plenty of other ways. Metasploit has its own port forwarding thing built in, but we're just going to use this pt.exe, and we'll stick that in that temp folder, I guess. Drag and drop that, because I was kind enough to include drag and drop functionality in this program I wrote. So yeah, pt.exe, we can just use that. So let's start command prompt. We'll do open command prompt here, and then we can just do pt.exe. I can't remember the syntax for my own tool. We've got an example there, so we'll do -s, and it's going to connect back to my machine, so we need to run this on my machine as well. That's the way port tunneling stuff generally works. So if we do shared pt.exe, and then on my machine, we want to say forward port 8443 when we get an incoming connection. So it's waiting for connections now from the remote machine, and then we're going to connect to my machine, which will be 10.14.31, was it, my IP address? And I realize if you've not seen port forwarding before, this all seems super confusing and you don't really understand what's going on here. I've got a whole separate video explaining the whole concept of port forwarding and demonstrating this program I wrote, all that. So if none of this makes any sense to you, and it still kind of messes with my head a little bit when I'm setting it up, I'm going to say 443, sorry. Yeah, if none of that makes sense to you, then go and watch that video. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But this should be all we need to do here. So we're now going to connect, and this is going to say any traffic that we send to my machine now on port 8443. So if we go to my local machine now, so localhost, and then 8443, any traffic sent down there is now going to get sent to the remote machine and get replayed on the remote machine as if it's coming from that remote machine itself, if that makes sense. So you can see all this data being constantly sent between the two machines. So now if we try and log in, it essentially thinks we are running on the local machine, on this remote machine, if that makes sense. So because that entry in that config file was saying only allow the local machine access, now when we sign in, it does actually let us in. Although it's pretty slow. But yeah, there we go, we get in. Again, because it's going through that port tunnel program, when we're connecting to my machine, it's passing it onto the remote machine and then replaying the traffic there from the program that's running on the remote machine. So from this command prompt here that's running on the remote machine, it's replaying the traffic and sending it to the local machine. So therefore it's allowed in because it thinks it's coming from the local machine, not a remote machine. That's the kind of TLDR, but again, the separate video explains that in a lot more detail. So we've got access to this. Long story short, there isn't anything super useful when you just look around, but if we do some Googling for like exploits, so let's Google NS client ++ exploit and see what we find. We've got privilege escalation. Let's have a look at this. So this is the thing that everyone found that says you need the ability to reboot the machine. It talks you through what to do, and then the last step is restart the computer. We don't want to do that because obviously other people are attacking this machine as well. We don't want to be restarting the machine. So this is, I think, the thing that made everyone think this machine's really unreliable. Also, a lot of people said that the web browser, like its web interface, was really clunky and like kept breaking and stuff like that. Again, I didn't have any problems with it, but there is an alternative method as well, which we'll look at, which just purely uses the web API that this NS client thing has. So you don't have to use the website at all. So that's another reason why I think it's a bit unfair to say the machine's terrible, just because people had problems with this web API. I mean, this website. But as you can see, again, for me, it's a little slow, but it works. So anyway, let's look at what this exploit is doing. So it says get the web admin password. We've already done that. Log in, make sure the following things are enabled, which we were just actually looking at there. So we've got check external scripts and task scheduler. They're the two that it's mentioning. Check external scripts, task scheduler. This is just setting up netcat. Again, still setting up netcat. Right, so what we need to do is add a new external script. So let's do that. Let's go to settings and then external scripts. I guess we can just add a new one here. So we are going to call that VB. I don't know what it wants from me here. We'll call that VB as well, I guess. That is a strange system. I do agree with one thing that people said, which is that they feel sorry for anyone who actually has to use this software, because it is a horrible piece of software. Like, you've just seen how little sense that made when we're just trying to add, like, what a save changes. It is a very odd bit of software, like the way it works. I think the first time I did this, I actually didn't use the website to add the script. I used the API to add the script and then just used the website to actually run the script. But yeah, I'm kind of confused here. So we added, wait, what? Did that even add it? Add a simple script. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, okay, now we get a whole separate thing. Alias, VB, script, the name of the script, VB, oh, okay, dot bat, maybe? Arguments, don't care. I mean, it said it saved it, but nothing happened. So you can type stuff in there, even though this all looks super grayed out. Yeah, I agree with everyone. This is the worst piece of software ever. Literally the most confusing thing I've ever used. So we're going to scrap that and just do it through the API method that I mentioned I used the first time. So if we look for NS client ++ API, we can see that they have actually got a well-documented, well, fairly well-documented API. And weirdly, it's in like two separate places. So if you go on this, it takes you to a completely different website that actually has some better documentation for some bits. I don't know, it's really strange. So basically, the first time I went through this, I just kind of followed their examples here. So they give you pretty good examples here in curl. So if we just do curl that command, and we'll run it on the machine. So we can do this from a new command prompt, in fact. Let's do that there. Paste. It's already just going to do localhost. Well, I guess I could do that from my machine now that we've got the port tunneling working. So it wants a password, so we'll put that in, and that should work. Okay, so we get some rubbish. Let's just expand this so we can see it easier. So it shows us different runtimes and things that we can use. If we go back to the documentation, we can see that we can list scripts if we do the runtime after it. So we saw here that one of the runtimes was scripts/ext or something like that. So let's use that. Again, they've got an example here, so we'll take their example, because that's going to list external scripts, which is what we want to do. So we do this, basically that's saying there are no external scripts at the moment, so fine. Although this one, apparently you have to do $all equals true. So I don't know why it shows the other example. All equals, was it capitals or anything? Nope. True. Okay, so now we get a list of all the scripts that are available. Again, these are all just to actually do proper tests on the network, check if certain ports are open, check ping, check printers, things like that. These are all legitimate things. We can't really abuse any of the built-in ones, so we're going to add our own. You can see here that we get the option to add a script. So here we go, here we can add a new script. So what we would do in this example is what they've got here. So we do -x and put. So we know we want to put that password in there. We'll just copy this whole thing to make it a bit easier. Right, so what they're doing is they're calling this check new. We'll call it vb.bat, and the binary is going to be whatever this file is. So it's going to read this file from this location. So we need to actually put a file in that location called vb.bat and make that do whatever we want this script to do when it executes. So let's just create that. The bat file is just going to simply do c/temp/vb_rev, because that's our reverse shell that we use in this program. Again, obviously you could just change this to netcat or whatever you wanted, but I'm just using the one I made because why not? We'll do that on 4445 because we want it to be a different port to this one. So before I forget, let's start another reverse shell listener on port 4455. So that's sat waiting now. And that's pretty much all we want our batch file to do. So we'll save that as a .bat file on our desktop, vb.bat. And now we can just copy that over to the remote machine. And we want to stick it in, well, we can put it in the same location, I guess, c/temp, and just make sure we're running from there when we do this. So where was that command prompt actually running from? That's in c/shared at the moment, so let's just do cd c/temp. And now if we run the command that we were building up, I'll try and explain this in more detail in a second once we actually get it working and done. So this again is just taken from their example, but we've just changed it to be vb.bat and vb.bat there. So if you run that, hopefully we can upload this thing. So it added vb as scripts/vb.bat. So if we do the list again, this one listed all external scripts, we should hopefully see, yeah, we've got our scripts/vb.bat in there now. So now we've got a script that will do what we want. It will connect back to us, as long as I put the right IP address in. Did I? I did. It will connect back to us on that port when it's run, but we need to actually find a way to execute it. And this is where I got really stuck when I first was attacking this machine, because this API guide on scripts doesn't provide any way to run a script. At least it doesn't seem so on the surface. Turns out, somebody told me this afterwards after I'd done it using the website, because the first time what I did was followed along with that exploit that we were using, wherever it's gone, not that one, this one. So this was saying add the external script, which like you saw I ended up doing through the API instead. And then it says go to the scheduler and add a new schedule to run that script every minute, so that it will then execute your script. So that's what I did. I went in here, I went to the scheduler, and somehow figured out how on earth to add a new thing in here because it's not intuitive. But what I did find was that I didn't actually have to set it to run every minute. As soon as I added the schedule, it actually executed the script and connected back to me. So that was kind of odd. But we're going to try and do it the API way this time because that's a little bit more interesting. So yeah, what it turns out is this fetch script actually executes the script, even though it doesn't say it's going to do that. It just says it'll fetch the script definition. So I would have thought that would just type out the contents of our batch file like it kind of shows here. So again, we'll just copy their example, tweak it a bit to do what we want to run our script. So we'll just change that. We'll put the password back in there. In fact, let's just take this bit. And we'll take that. We'll get rid of the xput because that was just for that thing where we're uploading something. And instead of check OK, we're just going to have this be VB. Now, weirdly, it doesn't have the file extension, but that just seemed to be the case for all of them. So yeah, we'll just do VB because that's what we called our script. And it said when it was uploaded, it said it uploaded it just as VB rather than, yeah, you see, added VB rather than VB.bat, even though we put VB.bat in the initial command. But yeah, it's a bit weird. So if we run that now, let's take this. This should, wrong one, let's take this. This should execute our script and we should get a connection back in this listener here as system, hopefully, because this whole service is running as system. And the reason that we know that is, again, because this exploit guide here mentions that it runs a system. Of course, it could have been changed to not run a system, but at this point it seemed like a good thing. There's obviously ways you could check that as well. In fact, let's see, I didn't finish the services section yet, but if we start a new command prompt, you could do sc.exe, although that's not going to let us list, yeah, it's not going to let us list services, but if we know the name of the service, we could probably do it. Is it going to be like NSRP or something? No, I don't know the name of the service. You can find out from the registry, actually. You could do rich query HKLM / system / current control set / services. and that will list all of them, and then you could look through there and see if you can find one that is the NS client service. And let's see if we can do that. I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I'm just trying to show you how you can figure these things out rather than me just going, oh, obviously the service is running a system, so that's why we're targeting it. Well, it's not necessarily obvious, is it? So let's see how you could actually figure that out. Have we got anything in here that's called NS client or anything like that? NSCP sounds pretty likely. /NSCP. Yeah, so as you can see there, that is the NS client service, and we can see that it's running as local system. So anyway, getting back to what we're trying to do, let's run our command, which was this, which should execute our script that we just uploaded as system, and then we should get a connection back to this reverse shell, in theory. But we haven't done, so what did we do wrong? Like I say, I didn't do it this way the first time, I just heard from other people that this is what they did. So I don't quite understand, because yeah, the description doesn't sound like it would actually run the file. But I heard from other people that that is all they did. Well, can we do it from here now that we've got our extra external script? Well, this doesn't seem to have realized that we've got a new script. I don't want to click reload because I think a lot of people said that crashes the whole service. Duplicate command for command VB. Is that because I already tried to add one before? We're getting that over and over again, but with the same time every time. This software is great. Let's just try and name it something else. We'll name it, so it's still going to be the vb.bat that we're going to upload, but we'll name this VBA. There we go, VBA. So that's added as that. We're still getting plenty of errors about that thing, but now let's try running our VBA command and see if that gives us any different results. Try run that. So it kind of says it ran it, but we still don't get a connection back. This is still going crazy. So I'm going to have to resort to just doing it the way I did the first time, which was to add a new schedule and run our script that way. So let's do that. Schedules. And then God knows how I did this the first time. It's so bizarre, this software. Add a simple schedule. Do that, please. This will identify the command, but then this also identifies the command. I'll call this VB shed. And we want to run VBA. Save. Please do something. Did that do anything? Apparently not. I don't know why the save button just doesn't work. That's kind of a problem. But see, now it has added that. Undefined key, whatever that means. This is the worst software I've ever used in my life. So yeah, I guess I get some of the complaints now from people because the API way is not obvious. Like, I had a good look around here the first time and couldn't figure out how on earth to do it through the API, which is why I resorted to the other option. But apparently you can do this. Let's just try this. Query /VBA. Let's just try that because I'm running out of ideas now. Nothing happens. I mean, if we just run that file, does it definitely work? If we just run temp/vb.bat, does it work? It does work. So the batch file is definitely fine. Batch file definitely works as it should. Oh wait, now we've got a connection, have we? Yeah, now we've got a connection, a system. What is going on here? I didn't do anything. This is pretty much what happened the first time, but it's a lot faster. So I assumed it was just because I created the schedule. But this time, is it because of that bit? But no, they all show. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you get the idea. We're running a system now, so we can get into the admin's desktop and read the root flag. But yeah, that is really odd. I don't understand what triggered that. I wanna kind of get to the bottom of this. So let's just set up another listener. Wait, so now we've got another. It's connected again now. We haven't done anything. What triggered that? Was it just me going into modules? yeah, going into here. Oh, this is such a bizarre system. So clicking on that settings button seems to be what triggers this to connect and run the scripts. Right, so that kind of makes sense because we've got that in there. Although why that actually runs the script when you load this web page, I have no idea. Let's do it again and just see exactly what triggers it. So it won't do it there because it's already on. But if we go in there, click settings, yeah, it triggers it straight away. Okay, so, but then that begs the question, why doesn't the API method work? Because that would seem to do the same thing, just fetch the script definitions. Right, so I've just found a whole new section. Right, see if I'm crazy here, okay? Right, I was looking through all this stuff. We've got introduction, scripts, modules, and then legacy API on the left, yeah? They're the only options we've got. But if we click introduction, we now get some extra stuff here. We now get queries, which would have been helpful to see before, and this lets you execute a query. Like what? Even their own website is terrible. This is atrocious. So now hopefully we can actually execute a query because we can just run the name of our command. So what are we doing here? Let's have an example. Queries, check CPU, commands, blah, blah, blah. Let's copy that. Try and adapt that to what we're trying to do. Would have been real useful if we'd known about that to start with. Now we don't need the output. So let's just stick our password in there. And what are we actually doing here? We're doing queries, check CPU, so we want to change that to our command, which was VBA. And then commands execute time equals 1 minute, I guess. Do we have to specify a time? Oh, so that's going to tell it how often to do it. Okay. Oh no, that's just for that one query. So our query doesn't have any parameters, so that doesn't matter. We don't actually, we don't need that bit, I don't think. So let's try this, see if this works. Just doing so. Oh, there we go. We got the connection back. Okay, cool. So that is how we do it, and that literally wouldn't have taken me long to figure out at all if this option had actually existed in the help documentation. Like it stays there now as well. That's what's weird. I go back to the scripts thing that I was looking at before. Let's go back a few. Alright, so it's not there now. So we're in API/scripts and it doesn't exist. But if we go into introduction and then back to scripts, oh, now we're on API/REST/scripts. Right, so is that the difference? Before, no, this is under REST. This is, I'm sure you can tell in the frustration in my voice that that was not a pleasant experience, and I can see why this machine got some, well, it's not really the machine author's fault, that's the thing. It's not their fault that this documentation is horrendously made so that it just hides half the options from you until you click a certain button and then they all appear. That was, yeah, a pretty horrible experience. Again, not the fault of the box author, just the software and the exploits that you find. Well, I mean, I didn't find this particularly bad. I was kind of smart enough to realize I'm not going to restart the machine constantly because that's going to mess up everyone else. But yeah, this whole NS Client software is absolutely horrific, and I never want to see it ever again. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that a bit more than I did. We got there in the end. We showed 2 different ways to do it. Obviously with the website by clicking modules, and then this for some reason triggers it. I still don't really understand why that does, but it does. And then also, yeah, using the API once we actually discovered the API documentation that just literally tells you exactly what to do. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.